My name is Alex. I'm
I've always
29,
admired
single,
your
living in Denver,
dedication to your
Colorado.
studies.
I work in IT, mostly back-end
It means
systems
a
for a
lot to me
logistics
too.
company. It's not glamorous, but it pays well, and I get to work from home most of the time. I live in a small but decent apartment in Capitol Hill, and I've always kept my circle tight. I'm not really into big parties or dating apps. I'm the type who likes good coffee, quiet mornings, and people I actually trust. And one of those people used to be Nate. Nate and I have been best friends since we were 15, high school, college jobs, breakups. We've seen each other through it all. He's the kind of guy who'd show up at 200 a.m. if I needed help moving a couch, the kind of friend you think you'll have standing next to you at your wedding someday. He was always loyal, and he got lucky with life, landed a solid job in finance, bought a nice house in the suburbs, and married Emma. Emma, she's smart, warm, beautiful. No denying that. Nate met her about 4 years ago at a networking event, and a year later they were married. I was his best man. Back then, I didn't know her all that well. She was always friendly, kind to everyone, made jokes, laughed a lot, but never once made me uncomfortable. Never once gave me any reason to think she noticed me in any special way. Until one night about a year ago, Nate invited me over for dinner. Nothing formal, just a casual Friday night. He said Emma was cooking something special, and he missed hanging out. I said sure. I brought a bottle of wine, rang the bell, and Emma opened the door. She looked good, more dressed up than I expected for a chill dinner at home. Red lipstick, a black blouse that hugged her frame and heels. I remember thinking, damn, okay. But I quickly brushed it off. Maybe they were planning to go out after. I didn't think much of it. Dinner was great. We were sitting around the table laughing, drinking wine, eating her famous lemon chicken, and everything felt normal at first, but then I started noticing little things. Emma was making a lot of eye contact, like prolonged. When she laughed at my jokes, she touched my arm. Twice light touches, maybe nothing on their own, but I'm not dumb. I noticed there was a moment when Nate got up to grab more wine from the kitchen, and it was just me and her at the table. She looked at me, smiled in this kind of slow, knowing way, and said, "You really haven't changed much, Alex. Still the same thoughtful guy." I said, "That's not a bad thing, I hope." She tilted her head and said, "Not at all." It wasn't the words. It was the tone, the way her eyes didn't leave mine when she said it, that looked like she wanted to say more but didn't. Nate came back in and the moment snapped. Everything went back to normal, or at least on the surface. But I kept replaying it in my head the rest of the evening. When I left that night, she hugged me goodbye, just a bit longer than necessary. And when I turned to leave, she said, "We should do this again sometime. Just us." I laughed awkwardly and said, "Yeah, dinner was great." I didn't even look back as I walked to my car, but I felt her eyes on me the whole way down the path. Driving home, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe it was just wine and nostalgia and my own ego getting in the way. I didn't want to believe anything weird was happening. This was Nate's wife, my best friend's wife. But that night, as I sat in my apartment in the dark drinking water and trying to distract myself with some mindless YouTube videos, I realized something I didn't want to admit. Emma had looked at me in a way no one had looked at me in a long, long time, and I felt something. A couple of days went by. I didn't hear from Nate or Emma, and honestly, I was relieved. I had convinced myself that I'd overthought the whole thing. People get too deep in their heads sometimes, especially when they're alone, a lot like me. Maybe I read too much into a few innocent gestures. I told myself to stop being dramatic. She was just a friendly, that's all. But then late one night, I got a DM from her. It was Emma. At first, I was surprised. She'd never messaged me directly before, not once. The message was short. "Hey, what was the name of that wine you brought the other night? I want to get it again." I stared at the screen for a minute. It was just a wine question. Innocent, right? But she could have asked Nate to ask me or just Googled it. I mean, it wasn't some rare bottle, but I replied anyway. Told her it was a California Red from a local place in Denver. She replied with a wine glass emoji. That was it. Nothing else. The next day, she liked one of my photos from months ago, me standing in the mountains holding a thermos and grinning like an idiot. Then she sent another message. "You look good here. You seem happy now." That hit different. That message sat in my inbox for a few hours before I replied. And when I did, it was short. Just thanks. It was a good day. She didn't reply, but I knew something had shifted. This wasn't in my head anymore. She was reaching out, testing waters maybe. Or maybe she was lonely. I didn't know. I just knew it wasn't nothing. I didn't tell Nate. What was I supposed to say? Hey man, your wife liked my photo and said I look good. It felt like a betrayal even thinking about it, but I couldn't shake the tension. A week later, we were both invited to a mutual friend's birthday backyard kind of thing. Casual food drinks, folding chairs, and old playlists. Nate couldn't come work emergency, he said, but Emma showed up, and so did I. The second she saw me, she smiled like she'd been waiting all night for me to arrive. She was wearing a light sundress, nothing flashy, but the way she carried herself, it was intentional. She made her way toward me, slowly weaving through people, like she had all the time in the world. Look who finally decided to show up, she said. I laughed nervously. I had to work late. Still the responsible one, she said. Some things don't change. We stood there in awkward silence for a beat too long. Then someone called her over to help with the grill. She went, but not before giving me that look again, that pause before leaving, the kind that lingers just a little too long. Later that night, I stepped out onto the balcony for some air. Denver nights in summer are beautiful, just enough chill in the air to feel alive. A few moments passed, and I heard the sliding door open behind me. It was her. She stood next to me, didn't say anything at first. We both looked out at the backyard where someone was trying to light tiki torches and failing miserably. People were laughing below, then she spoke quietly. Do you ever feel like you made the wrong choice? I turned my head slightly. What do you mean? She was still watching the trees. Like you followed the path you were supposed to, checked all the boxes, but somewhere deep down, you know something's off. I didn't answer right away. That question hit harder than I expected. She went on. Sometimes I feel like I'm performing, like I'm playing the role of wife, but not really living it. I wanted to ask what she was trying to say, but I didn't. I just nodded slightly. She looked at me, then finally really looked. Her eyes were soft but tired. I'm sorry, she said quickly, shaking her head. I don't know why I'm saying this. Too much wine. I gave her an easy out. It's okay, happens to the best of us. She smiled. You're always calm. I like that. Then she touched my hand just for a second, barely more than a graze, but it was enough. Before I could respond, the sliding door opened again, and someone called out her name. She smiled again this time like nothing happened and walked back inside. I stood out there for another 10 minutes, staring into the dark, wondering what the hell I was doing, why I was letting this happen, whether I was already too deep in something I didn't choose. The next day, I woke up to another message. Sorry if I was weird last night. I just needed to talk to someone. Thank you. I didn't respond, not because I was angry, but because I didn't trust myself anymore. I tried to keep my distance after that night, didn't answer Emma's message, didn't check her stories, didn't text Nate either. I just buried myself in work, stayed home more than usual, avoided mutual friends, and told myself I was just overreacting, that I was doing the right thing by not getting involved. But avoiding them didn't solve anything. It only gave me more time to think. I started questioning myself. Was I leading her on without realizing it? Was I making things worse by not addressing it directly? Was I just scared of confrontation? I didn't know, but what I did know deep down was that something between us had changed, something Nate didn't see. About 3 weeks later, Nate called. He sounded upbeat. Hey man, he said, still alive. I laughed barely. He said he was planning to rearrange his garage and needed help moving a couple of heavy shelves. Offered pizza and beer as payment. Classic Nate. I hesitated for a moment, but then agreed. Saying no felt suspicious. That Saturday, I drove over in the early afternoon. The garage was a mess, boxes everywhere, tools stacked in corners, half assembled, shelves, old camping gear. We spent the next couple of hours moving, stuff, lifting, reorganizing, cracking jokes, and for a while it felt like old times, like none of the past month ever happened. At one point, Emma stepped into the garage carrying a pitcher of lemonade. She looked relaxed, wearing jeans and a simple t-shirt, hair tied up. She handed us glasses, smiled politely, and turned to leave. As she walked away, Nate said, She's been a little off lately, distant. You notice? I shrugged. Maybe just tired. Work life, you know. He sighed. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. She's not really herself. That word stayed with me the rest of the day. Later, we ordered pizza and watched some game highlights in the living room. After eating, Nate said he needed to run to the store to grab more beer. I offered to go instead, but he insisted and said it would only take 5 minutes. As soon as the front door closed behind him, the room got quieter. I was sitting on the couch scrolling my phone, trying not to overthink. Emma came in from the hallway. Want anything else? She asked. I'm good, thanks, I said, not even looking up. She sat down, not on the other couch, on the same one. Closer than she needed to, close enough that her leg touched mine. I tensed, she noticed. Relax, she said, smirking a little. I'm not going to bite. I turned to her. Emma, this is getting weird. Her expression didn't change. Is it? Yeah, I said, it is. She looked at me for a long moment. Why? Because I like talking to you, because I feel comfortable around you. You're married, I said bluntly, to my best friend. That hit her, but not in the way I expected. She leaned back a little, crossed her arms. You think I don't know that? You think I don't carry that with me every single day? I didn't answer. I couldn't. I didn't want to hear it, but she kept going. I married Nate because he was stable, dependable, and he is. But somewhere along the way, I stopped feeling seen. I don't even know who I am anymore when I'm around him. You should talk to him about that, I said. She laughed bitterly. I've tried. He doesn't hear me, not really. But you do. I stood up. Emma, I think I should go. She stood too. Of course, run away. I'm not running away, I said. I'm doing the right thing. She looked at me, calm, steady. You felt it too. Don't lie. I didn't respond because part of me hated how right she was. I left the house and drove home in silence, my mind racing the whole way. The weight of everything hit me like a wall. This wasn't some hypothetical anymore. It was real. It was messy, and I was in the middle of it. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing her voice. You felt it too. Don't lie. I felt it, but that didn't make it right. The next morning I got a message from Nate. Thanks again for helping yesterday. You're a real one. I stared at the message for a long time before replying, always, man. I felt like a fraud. A week passed then too. I didn't hear from either of them. I figured maybe I dodged a bullet. Maybe Emma had come to her senses. Maybe she realized how close she was to blowing up her marriage and our friendship. But then came the third weekend. Nate texted again, barbecue this Saturday. You better show up. No excuses. I didn't want to go, but I also didn't want to disappear. So I went. It was a chill backyard hangout, burgers, drinks, music, laughs. Emma kept her distance most of the evening. She was quiet, smiled politely, barely looked at me. I thought maybe we were finally on the same page, that we'd silently agreed to let this thing fade. Then when I went inside to use the bathroom, she caught me in the hallway just like that. No warning, no time to prepare. She stood there calm, composed. Next time you leave, she said softly, don't pretend you're doing the noble thing. I swallowed hard. What are you talking about? You want me to say it, she said, stepping closer. I want you, and I'm tired of pretending I don't. I froze, and then I heard the sliding door from the backyard open. Nate's voice. Alex, you still inside? I stepped back fast. I'll be right out. I called. Emma didn't move. Her eyes never left mine. The next few days were a blur. I tried to act like none of it happened, like she hadn't looked me in the eyes and said, I want you, like I hadn't felt something crawl into my chest and sit there refusing to leave. But it had happened, and I couldn't unhear. It couldn't unsee the way she stepped in unshaken calm, as if it wasn't a risk, but a decision already made. And I didn't do anything. That silence I gave her, it didn't feel like resistance. It felt like permission. And that tore me up more than anything. I stopped answering texts from Nate. He'd send me memes, links to dumb TikToks or casual invites like nothing was wrong. Because to him, nothing was wrong. Because he didn't know what was happening in the corners he wasn't looking at. I hated myself for being part of it. Even if I hadn't touched her, even if I hadn't said it back, I hadn't stopped it either. Not clearly, not in a way that mattered. I didn't want to see either of them again. But that wasn't how life worked. One Friday evening, I got a call from Nate. "Hey, you busy? Can you come by for a bit?" I hesitated. "What's going on?" He chuckled. "Nothing serious. Emma made dinner, and I figured you could finally eat something other than takeout. Come on, man. Just an hour. I haven't seen you in forever." I almost said no. Almost. But guilt makes people do strange things. I said yes. I showed up about 40 minutes later. They both greeted me at the door. Emma looked normal, no strange tension, no lingering glances. She smiled politely, handed me a beer, and walked off to check something in the kitchen. Nate slapped me on the back like always. We ate in the dining room, just the three of us. Conversation was light football, new series on Netflix, a new guy at Nate's job who couldn't stop talking about crypto. I laughed where I was supposed to laugh, ate slowly, avoided eye contact with her, focused on the clock. When dinner ended, I stood up quickly. "All right, I should head out." Nate raised an eyebrow. "Already, dude, it's not even 8. I've got some work stuff I need to catch up on." I lied. He sighed. "Fine, at least let me get that charger you left here last time." I didn't even remember leaving a charger, but he walked toward the bedroom anyway. Left the room. That's what happened. She stood up, quietly walked over to me. No hesitation. I took a step back. She didn't stop. "Emma," I said, keeping my voice low, "please don't." She was inches away now. "Do you know how many nights I lie awake wishing I had met you first?" I looked down, jaw clenched. "This isn't right." Her hand touched my chest, flat, calm still. "Then why does it feel like it is?" I backed away toward the door. She followed, and then she said it, "Kiss me like you mean it." Her voice was soft, measured, certain. I froze. Everything in me wanted to run, but something else, something weaker, wanted to give in just once, just to know what it would feel like to forget loyalty and lines and guilt for a moment, to take something that wasn't mine, but was being offered like it belonged to me. But I didn't move. And then Nate's voice echoed from the hallway, "Found it! It was under your old hoodie." I stepped back hard. Emma stepped away even faster. She turned toward the kitchen like nothing happened. Nate walked in with the charger in his hand. "Dude, you're always leaving stuff here." I forced a smile. "Yeah, I guess I'd do that." He handed it to me completely unaware. I thanked them both, said goodbye quickly, and left the house. The second I sat in my car, I exhaled. My hands were shaking. My chest was tight. My mind was spinning, and I knew that I couldn't keep this inside anymore. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, hearing her voice on repeat, "Kiss me like you mean it." By morning, I had made a decision. I called Nate. "Hey," I said, "can we meet up just us?" "Sure," he said. "You okay?" "Not really." We met at a park we used to hang out at during college. Our spot quiet shaded with a small bench facing the lake. He sat down beside me, relaxed, smiling like he always did. I didn't know how to start, but I forced myself to say it all. I told him what had been happening, from the first strange moment to the messages, the conversations, the hallway, and the night before. I told him I never touched her, that I never crossed the line physically. But I admitted that maybe I didn't do enough to stop it either, that I froze, that I hesitated, that I failed to tell him sooner. He didn't speak. He just stared at the water. I finished talking and waited. My mouth was dry. My stomach was in knots. Finally, he turned to me. "You really expect me to believe this?" I blinked. "Yes, because it's the truth." He stood up. "No, you don't get to come here, destroy my marriage, and call it the truth. You think you're saving me. You think you're being noble? You're not. You're just—" He shook his head. "You're jealous. You always were, and now you're trying to sabotage what I have. And I'm telling you now, stay out of our lives." "Nate, no," he cut me off. "You're not my friend anymore. You don't get to be." He walked away. I sat there alone watching the water move. After that day in the park, I didn't hear from Nate again. Not a call, not a message, not even a like on social media. I checked sometimes. His profile was still there, but it was like I didn't exist to him anymore. And honestly, I couldn't blame him. Even if I did what I thought was right, I knew how it looked to him. I was the guy who showed up one day and accused his wife of trying to cheat his best friend turning against the person he trusted most, his home, his marriage. And the thing that hurt most, he believed her, not me. A few weeks later, I ran into a mutual friend at the grocery store, Josh. We'd all played fantasy football together for years. He looked at me a little sideways. I heard you and Nate had a falling out, he said, like he didn't already know why. I nodded. Yeah. He gave me that awkward half smile people do when they don't want to get involved. That sucks, man. You guys were close. Yeah, I said, we were. He didn't ask questions. I didn't explain. What would I even say? Time passed. I tried to move on, but it stayed with me, that heaviness, that strange guilt that doesn't fade even when you know you did the right thing. Emma never reached out again, not a word, which part of me was grateful for, but another part made me feel disposable, like I was just a side experiment she could walk away from once it became inconvenient. I kept my distance from everyone connected to them, didn't go to any mutual hangouts, skipped birthdays, stopped responding in group chats. I didn't want to be the shadow in the room no one wanted to mention. Then about 5 months later, I got a text from an unknown number. Hey, it's Emma. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I thought you should know. I moved out. I stared at the message for a long time. Then another one came. He walked in on me with someone. I guess that makes everything simpler now. I didn't respond. What was I supposed to say? I told you so? Are you okay? Nothing felt appropriate. Nothing felt real because in that moment, all I could think about was he didn't believe me. But now, months later, he caught her, not me, maybe not a guess. He saw it. A week later, Josh messaged me, you hear what happened with Nate and Emma? I replied, yeah, she told me. He sent back, he's not doing great. You should reach out. I didn't answer because I didn't know how to respond to that either. It's not that I was angry. I wasn't. I was just tired. Tired of being the guy who did the right thing and still lost, tired of living in the wreckage of someone else's mess. Tired of feeling like the villain in a story I never chose to be part of. About a month later, I ran into Nate randomly at a gas station. I was coming out with a bottle of water and a protein bar. He was at pump 6. We locked eyes for half a second. He nodded. I nodded back. Neither of us said a word, just two guys who used to be brothers, now strangers. I got in my car and drove off. Didn't look back. That was 8 months ago. Since then, life has gone on. I've been focused on work, started therapy, tried reconnecting with some other friends I'd pushed away during that time. I even started dating again. Nothing serious yet, but it feels good to have clarity, to feel like I'm on solid ground again. Sometimes I still think about that night, her voice, the way she said it, kiss me like you mean it. And I'm proud of myself for not doing it, for not crossing that line, for walking away, even if I lost everything, because the truth is, some losses are still wins. You don't always get closure or justice or apologies, but you do get to choose who you are. And I'd rather be the guy who lost his best friend than the guy who betrayed him. Alex's story delivers a heart-wrenching lesson. Loyalty and integrity, though costly, define who we are in life's toughest moments. Caught in the tension of Emma's advances and his bond with Nate, Alex faced a choice that tested his moral core. Her subtle gestures, lingering touches, private messages, and bold confessions stirred feelings he couldn't ignore. Yet he refused to betray his best friend. His decision to confront Nate with the truth, despite knowing it might end their friendship, underscores the courage it takes to prioritize honesty over comfort. The pain of losing Nate's trust, coupled with the silence that followed, reveals that doing the right thing doesn't always yield immediate rewards. Alex's journey teaches us that life's hardest battles are often fought in quiet moments where temptation and duty collide. It's a reminder to hold fast to our values even when the creative is a cherished relationship or personal peace. His pride in resisting Emma's pull, despite the wreckage it left, shows that self-respect is a victory worth any loss. This story urges us to choose truth over temptation, to honor those we love, and to accept that some endings are necessary for our own growth. Have you ever faced a choice between loyalty and temptation? Share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear how you navigated it. If this tale of courage and sacrifice resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and join our community for more stories that inspire. Let's keep exploring the strength it takes to live with integrity.